Everyone it's gonna kick us out in like 30 minutes. So if it kicks us out, you probably have to rejoin one more time. And I feel like I'm getting a six. That's the next thing. All right, cool. So I'll start now, and then when they join. We'll see if we'll catch up on some stuff. So if you guys remember, not everyone made it last or 2 weeks ago. I think that was the time we played. We had like
Hey
a
guys.
Haley. We had a scrimmage. So basically we had it from two different angles. And so we'll take a kind of look at both of them. Really quick while I'm pulling it up, how do you guys, who was there, how do you guys think you did? What do you feel? Any quick thoughts before I pull it up? I have to switch computers again.
Well, I know for myself, I didn't do good at all. I felt like absolute. I felt terrible. So I know me. I didn't play my best on either side. Could
That's,
barely move, to be fair. But I knew that in like the first 2 minutes, but I just fought through it.
yeah, that's a good point. We could talk about that. That's actually a good point. So with you then, before we even get into it, that you can see your back was pretty much like gone from the beginning. So in the game, the best thing to do is like if you can't make it, you can't, in terms of like you can't really go. It's the best thing to do is like, hey, like let's see if we get somebody else in there. But we'll take a look at it. Um, but obviously that wasn't the game, right? So all right, so let's start from here. So we had two different angles, kind of going back. If you guys remember, we kind of did it like impromptu. So the right angle when we start, I think you guys should be on defense most likely. And all right, so then we'll start it off here and then we'll talk about it, right? So I have like already like notes and clips, so we'll just kind of skim through it. And then of course you guys can come off, you could talk about it and if you see anything. So we'll play specific spots in slow motion and whatnot for you guys. All right, so the ball should be coming down. All right, before I go, everybody's with me. Any questions before we start? All right, cool. So the ball should be coming down. So the thought process is we should be in a 2-3. All right. So this first one, I think this would how do I get this out the way? This here. I think this should give us a good. There you go. That's better. Uh, this just even the first clip should give us a good thing that we could talk about, and we'll move to the next thing. All right. So we'll mute it for now, so I can just talk over it. Honestly, hearing too could be helpful because you can see a lot of communication issues. Here's one thing that I'll show already. So, one thing I noticed, and it's probably not the worst thing, is that we had conversations before, so you guys had time. The biggest thing, if we're talking, let's say we're playing 2-3, before you start the game, you especially the starting five, it should be t like explicitly stated already, before you even hop on the court. So you shouldn't be hopping the court and asking questions of saying, "Well, do I got top? Do you got bottom? Do I got this? You got that?" That's too late, all right? Because it's really a quick conversation. Everybody, for the most part, if you look at this, we know Joel's going to be in the middle, for example. We know who's going to play topish, who's going to play bottomish, right? It all depends. But in short, it should say, I got right top, I got left top, I got left bottom, I got right bottom, and most likely Joel will get middle. If Joel's not there, maybe Dan goes, okay, I got middle, or maybe Lee can say, I don't know. We could always fix it. But my whole point is, before that goes out, it should be stated. Everything should be stated. Everything should be stated. Sorry. Stated. Does that make sense? All right, let's go. So one of the things first is when we're coming down, I'm gonna pin the picture. You have a point guard. You have Matt who's coming down on the left side of the court, and then you have Chino on one side of the court right now. You can't see him because Peter's in the way. There's Gray. That's another side. I forgot his name. But I know he came with whoever. So right now. The court is overloaded to this side right now. Three and one. We're missing someone, but we'll see if he pops up somewhere because I don't see him anywhere. All right, so now it's four people on one side. All right. This is an open question for everybody. What when there's four people on one side and you're in your zone, what should the communications be?
Overload to whatever side.
Exactly, right? So Lee, this would be example for you, right? So if you're on this side and then this side too. So Dan's on this side and this side. The back sides, I mean, everybody has to talk. Let's start there. The backside job and the big job here, right? That's why I wish Joel Thomas was here. I think he was just calling me back. Joel Baptiste, if you can try to get Joel Thomas again. But the big backside and backside jobs is to all communicate and talk. So the stuff you're saying, if you're wondering what you should say in zone, is I got overload on my side, right? So going back with Lee, Lee should start saying, hey, I only got one on my side. So what does that mean? We all have spots on our zone, but what that means already is that now Carly should know, hey, I can cheat over, and Carly can start pushing Chavis with his left arm to say, hey, because we only got one there. So basically, Lee could pretty much guard this one, if that makes sense. And my good examples of this is how way you can guard your zone, right? And then so Chavis can start scooting over, for example, and then Joel can start scooting over, he can start scooting over, and then Lee, you don't have to stay on guarding this guy unless he's like some type of shooter or something. But the whole point is, that hey, it's basically one on one. I can guard this side. All right, let's keep it going. First things first is there's a lot of movement already. You see, Chavis is actually hitting Vidal. That's one thing we need to see more of. That's good. Now we have one guy who's coming. He's probably taking middle, right? And then we're probably gonna break down immediately, right? So with all like a lot of this movement, right? Again, Lee, your job is to communicate that. See how Matt is coming right towards you. So I'm even though it's blurry, I'm pretty sure you're not saying nothing, but this is what we need going into the games, regardless of what side it is. And what that means is if you start saying Carly or you start saying I got one on my side, if he says anything like that, well, not just Carly, but that concept of I got one on my side, that's telling the rest of the defense that yeah, we can go on, we can scoot over, we can like move over a little bit, right? All right. So the ball gets in the middle, right? Once the ball gets in the middle, Joel steps up. Now, a lot of times what happens is if that ball gets in the middle, this is the same thing we're talking about defense, the same thing we can do on offense, or we're trying to do on offense, right? Once that ball gets in the middle like this, as we see, if you look right here, Vidal is coming down. So what does this do? It makes Dan stay because if Dan goes to Chino, who's a shooter, right? Then he could just dump it down to Vidal. And then ensure if you look at this quickly within 2 seconds is that this putting getting the ball in the middle is putting us in a bind, right? Because and again, he's cutting at the right time for Vidal, putting this person, which is Nan, who if you see his arm right here, in a bind. So Nan's going down, and then look who's open, Chino. Chino comes gets the ball, Chavis comes out, and most likely Chino could shoot this shot because a lot of times he would, right? So the next step is again going back to the same concept we had before is that Lee, if you're because right now still Matt is by himself. Also, you Carly, this would be the next person. When we have this, you can't be here. But it's, again, it starts with the lead first. But even without Lee saying anything, you have to know, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Carly, if you watch you right now, when the ball swings, you see how the ball swings, and you're going backwards. So when they say play defense on a string, all right, when the team moves, and right now you're gonna see Chavis and Dan move, and you're going backwards. That's the opposite of what team defense is, right? If everybody was connected in a string, when the ball moves, everybody would move because the string will pull everybody together. So anytime, this is how you know we're doing bad defensive techniques, especially in zone, but even in man, it's the same thing. Is you're doing bad defense techniques is if you see how Dan and Chase are running this way, and if you're walking backwards, if you look at yourself, then you're out of position already. Because again, you don't have to be sprinting, but you should be moving forward because if they were to sprint again, they'll pull you guys forward. The whole team, not just you, Carly, the whole team. All right. So the whole point is instead of you being back here, you should be coming up. And that should be precipitated because of Lee's telling you, I still only got one on my side. And now he's all the way in the corner. All right. Any question on that before you go? All right, cool. So we're good. All right, so we're gonna let the ball go. So he makes the first shot, right? You see that? And that easily could have been stopped, which was what all we have to do here is again, Lee, if you're communicating, Carly, again, you're stepping up here. And we can step up because right now it'd almost be like a manish type of thing. What I mean by that is instead of guarding no one right now, which Carly you're doing, you'll be already. And if you weren't stepping back, I didn't mean to do that. And if you weren't stepping back, you'd be in better position because you already be here to contest a shot. If he makes a shot and you're contesting a shot, that's different. All right. So that's the difference with stopping that play. All right. So that's the first play. So the biggest keys there that I want to go through that one. And I said that this first play, I'm not gonna talk about the exact same thing in every play. But that first play is one of our issues on defense, for example. And I was like, for the most part, we could just take that one play and get most of our talking points out, which is basically, as we saw, Nan tagged Vidal down here. I saw Chavis tag Vidal when he was cutting through. We need one more tag and more communication. The back line, in this case, would be who we're looking at is Dan, Joel, and Lee, all communicating. Regardless, you guys are also communicating as well. All right. So anytime somebody's cutting, you're saying cut. If you're Lee and Dan, you got to tell the big, hey, we got back door. So for example, Lee, you see this guy right here, Vidal, you got to be talking to Joel, keeping him honest and saying, hey, we got somebody back door. You're trying to tell him, hey, we got things going on back there, right? So those are things that you got to, we just got to pay attention to. All right, cool. Let's go to the next thing. Let's see. So he makes that shot. We'll come back.
Hey, Keena.
Yeah.
Another side point. It didn't come up in the video yet, but I know it is going to come up. In transition, I don't think people understand. I don't think as a team, listen, I'm not a team that we understand as a full team that you don't own a spot. Meaning, like in transition, there's a lot of times, and it's going to pop up in the video. I know you've seen it, where two guys go to the same spot every time, or someone goes to a specific spot every time in transition,
Hmm.
where it's like we're not reading each other's teammate. Like if someone, let's say if a guard gets down first, right? You got to take that middle spot, and someone else got to fill in your top, right? It's not every time you're gonna come back to the top left. Every time you're gonna come back to the
Yeah,
top right. You know what I mean?
yeah, we got you. So that's in the video. I had notes on that one too. So that's a good point. We could just in the video we'll talk about that one. Then you could bring up any other things you want to talk about that specific. Make sense? But that's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So in short, this one is kind of example. This is kind of like I don't know what happened on the left side back here, but this is kind of transition-ish because you see he's already down the court, which is Jose, and all of us right now are basically bunched up together, not ready. All right, so let's see how we handle it. All right. So first things first is when you have something like this, Dan, obviously we want to get back. If Dan's not back, the next step is like Carly, we have to know that and we have to communicate that as well, right? Like if you're not in position. So like Carly, if you're playing here, you can't let him pass you easy, especially if you know Dan's not here. Um, Regardless of that, you gotta follow him, Carly, if Dan's not, again, that person not position. So this would be like kind of zone principles in short, which is and I'll even say what my brain would do automatically, which is I'm following him because in short, I'm following him. I'll lead him to Dan. If someone pops up basically in short, then I'll lead him to that person. If not, I gotta follow him because at that point we can't play a zone when people are not back in zone. For a zone to work, everybody has to be back. And then what Dan was talking about is not in this video specific yet, but we're gonna talk about how we handle that. That'll be my first thing I'll say there with that one. We can't let, especially in transition, we got to pay attention, put our head on a swivel. If we can't have zone thought processes if people aren't back, that's just the biggest thing, right? So we can't let people go. But biggest thing is, yeah, he gets it. I think he missed a shot anyways, but that'd be one of the that first things. Here's one thing I want to put out, boxing out. Matt comes in untouched all the way down. Now he didn't get the rebound, but if he does that and we keep allowing that inside of a game, we will get beat every time. And so let's watch it again. That means Lee. That means at this point, even though Chavis didn't see it, and then Joel, there's three of you guys on this side specifically. When somebody can't run straight down and we're standing like this, because this, how we're all standing straight up like that, I promise you, when we do other film sessions, we'll get his beat. And he should have been hit. So the more times he gets hit when he does this, that person's gonna stop doing it. All right, so that's one thing we got there. All right, cool. See, I don't know if there's any question on that one. All right, so this one was a turnover from Dan, but what I want to show is the transition defense basically. So if we're doing transition, basically, there's two things we can do, kind of going back to Dan's point. It's still not, I have specific ones, it's not Dan's point yet. Um, and let me know because this is more so for you guys. I'm not the one that's on the court, right? There's two ways to handle transition defense, especially when let's say our base, let's say, for example, we know our base is going to be a 2-3 zone. You can actually do in transition, if we didn't score or we're not back or we're not set, in transition, we switch to man. So pick up the closest guy next to you, da da da. Or kind of to Dan's point, you kind of pick zones based off the side the ball's on. If that makes sense. So there's two ways of doing that. So in this case, it's a turnover, and then you have Chino coming down. The biggest thing is, as I've been stated in one of our issues, is someone's got to stop ball, right? I know what right now what Chavis is doing is that he's kind of sees Joel almost even, and then he sees him here. So Chavis is kind of waiting. He's waiting. He's waiting. The biggest thing is I would rather next time, and obviously this is like we're pausing in real time. And Dan, I would say this: you how you're stepping back is not bad because there's not much you can do ish. My point I would say is someone always, like we talked about, someone always grabs rims. So in this case, that would be Dan. The next person has to stop ball. And because Joel Thomas is even, right? The only best thing we can do is Chavis has to get here where my mouse is at to stop ball on Chino as quickly as possible. Right. And when he does that, one thing, I don't know if is Joel Thomas here yet, or is he coming here? And if not, you guys can also correct him, even if I'm not there or not, right? Is that if this is the case, Joel Thomas can't always run down to the basket, or else we will get killed with good teams, right? If Chavis picks up Chino here and Dan is down here, right? That's how he's always picking 1-2. Then he's got to look for example, at least in terms of stopping the break, the next person, which would be the guy to his left here. And then if this is Carly. Carly would tag Vidal, if that makes sense. So like right now, how again, he's gonna go straight down. He does that every time. We have to work that out, which is, and again, I didn't say it in piece. So I'll walk it straight down. We'll go through it. So what I would rather is what Dan's doing is fine. Someone's guarding paint because Joel's even. Guy beats Joel down. Chavis, I would need him to get here. And the next thing is while he's going here, I want Joel to go to the left, but I also want Chavis to point, right? And then Carly will stay here. If we stop the break, what happens is, in short, you can't just switch and go out of your positions. And if you're guarding a man, you just like you can never do that. What happens is when it's convenient time to do things, you always want to get people back in their positions when it's convenient. That makes sense. So, for example, let's just say I'm not going to play it. I'm going to give an example that could happen. Chavis stops him. He picks the ball up and he has to pass it, right? He passed the ball to this guy over here. I forgot his name. The one that's running down this guy in the gray on that side. And Joel's guarding him. This guy dribbles or he passes to Vidal or somebody, and then we stop the break, and then they pass the ball up here to whoever's league. I don't know who else. Maybe Matt. So Matt is here. They pass the ball to Matt, and they start over. When they pass the ball to Matt, if you both are communicating, it's a good time to say, "Hey, Joel, come back down. You can take the middle again. I'll go back out." Stuff like that. That's the stuff you usually want to switch, but you never just switch in the middle of a play. You never switch without communicating. So, meaning you just want to switch, you run off, and the next guy's open. You never do nothing like that. You do it at the best times that you possibly can do it. Um, and that both people have to communicate on that they're going to do that. And then let's say you were trying to get somebody to pay attention. So let's say it's Joel. And I don't know, Carly, I don't know who it is. Joel and Dan, let's say. And Dan's saying, "Hey, Joel, switch with me. I'm gonna go back out," and he's not paying attention. You don't do it. What you do is soon that play is done, maybe they score, whatever, it doesn't matter. Soon that play is done, then you say, "Hey, Joel, next time when I do this, when that means if we're out of position like that, like once we can look for me so we can switch back. So you can be back in the middle. But you got to guard out here first. So if you played a good team like we did last time, which was the first game of the season, if you remember. This pass right here killed us a lot because these are trailers, and trailers what killed us a lot. The old man walked down multiple times and shot threes, and that's the reason why. Again, you can't. People just can't run down like what Joel's doing. All right. Any questions on that? Any thoughts on that?
Hold me accountable if I do so. That's to everybody.
Okay. So you're here. Go ahead. Good Joel
Yeah.
Thomas. All right, cool. All right, cool. So I'm gonna skip forward a little bit. Let's go to 920. Oh, my fault. I didn't mean to say that. So again, not going back to the last thing. What do you, we can do it in practice if you guys want to test it out. Well, I'll probably keep it that way, but I'll say we could do both in practice and we'll see which one works and which one we like better. But again, if we're doing we'll have other examples, so I'll get to that one. But if we're going back and we're let's say our base is 2-3 zone, again, there's two options. We got to fill the lanes back, kind of what Dan was saying. Actually, not kind of what Dan was actually saying. We'll give examples to it, but you fill the zones back based off of the ball, like actual following the ball. You know what I'm saying? Not just, oh, I'm always on the right side, so I'm gonna go to the right side. And we'll get to that. Or like I said, we could play man and you pick up the closest people next to you and man, and you just play man until that position's over. And then maybe the next time you score something, you come back in zone. That's like two ways of doing it. But we'll get to it. We'll do it in practice and we'll see which one we like better. All right, so this one. All right. This one, I believe Harold comes in the game. There you go. So Harold's in the game. He's on the top now. Now I have to actually watch it because I'm not sure what I was doing here. But I did take a note here. So one thing is this. Okay, I think I see why already. So it's a couple things. When you're in zone, guys, for everybody, the biggest thing is active hands and high hands, right? You want the ball to go above your hands and stuff like that. So meaning, when they're passing the ball, you want to jump, not jump. That's not good. But I'm meaning like, hand high. But, I'll keep it simple. But with the wording that you hear somebody uses high hands, and if you ever hear me say that, that's something. Even like Chavis right now, you see how he has his hands out. Like everybody has their hands down. The hands down is a problem in the zone. You want hands out, and then you want high hands with passes, for example, right? And we'll talk about that. So right now, I'm saying with Harold, if you can see, you see how like because the dude was passing it, he's making those attempts. Even though I would probably want his hands just staying high and keeping up and not like the little fake stuff. But that's good. That's what you want in zone, right? To deter passes and stuff like that. Get tips, make the passes harder. That's how people, get turnovers. But you don't walk around with your hands down. See, like Peterson, you don't walk around like that, even though the ball's on our side. Um, all right, cool. Let's see what we got. So you see how right now with Harold, right? The ball comes. This is what I was saying I liked. We weren't getting this previously. So you see how Lee's guarding him, and then Harold comes down to block off like that. If you looked at, even though we only did the first two, we weren't getting that before. So again, Carl, if you're here, same concept. That's what you should be doing. You should be high hands. The ball comes there. You have your left hand like this left hand out, this right hand, kind of connecting the Lee, and you're moving your feet. And the hand is out, and when that ball gets passed on the pass, you got to move, right? But you see, we get a turnover. I didn't even know we did that because I watched it the one time. But that's what I'm saying. This is what we need. Going back one more time. You got high hands. When the ball goes to that corner, if he drives into you, we don't just watch people drive, right? Like that, right? Force him to pick the ball up. He probably should just pass it back to Chino. But that's what you're worried about is you just come back left hand if I'm Harold left hand, and I'm looking for that pass so that I can be back, and you got to come back like that because Chino's fast. So if you come back with the wrong angle, he will probably beat you, which we can't get. All right. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? So that's for a lot of times for our top people, that's what we need. Um, but let me know. I'll let you guys come off mute if you see anything. All right, cool. So we'll go to the next one. Let's see. 1025. Let's see what this one is. All right, so let's come back. I think we can probably skip past this. I think this is a very similar thing. So paying attention, we have one, two in the corner. You got one guy baseline down here, which is Brian, and you got one guy cutting, one guy bringing the ball up. So saying it's the same concept I probably would make up, which is one, we got to know who we like the shooters. Right now, Chino's the one that shot like every shot, right? So basically, if we're gonna guard somebody, we were gonna put our attentions on Chino, and we gotta do this inside the game because this happens in every game. We'll talk about it. We'll be like, hey, this the guy that scores, and for some reason he's still scoring. If we're putting a lot of effort and someone else is beating us, that's we have to learn how to say, or we have to get to that point where we can say, okay, yeah, we can actually execute that. We're not executing that at a high level. Even this game, this guy, if you can see him, no reason why he should be getting all these shots when he's the one taking all these shots and he's making a lot of shots, right? This guy, if we had a weakest link on the court, it would have been him. Even though he made 1 3 in the whole 60 minutes. Yeah, let's see if he can make that's the whole point. Can he make 30 points? I don't think so, right? So that's why you would say, hey, I'm gonna give him the shot and I'm gonna guard him. So that means Lee and Harold, but Lee, if Chino's on your side, you're communicating a lot to yourself, I mean, and to Harold, right? And to the team. So they know, hey, shooter, how you want to put it, if you know the person's name, Chino, if you know whatever, but a lot of times if it's shooter or somebody, you're communicating that out. One thing I will say this when we to give everybody examples, right? Let me see. We put in slow motion. You see right now how Harold's guarding him, which is foot up. I will keep my hands out. And what I'm trying to do is the same thing. Active hands, so wide, and high hands. Why am I saying that? It's because what this does is, and the reason why I'll do that now is because if I know Chino's a shooter, most likely what teams do is they want to get the ball back to the same player that is good, right?
Wait,
So
coach, I got a question.
yeah, go ahead.
So you see, we was talking about that, right? With Chino, him being a shooter and stuff like that. And like someone like, let's say, for example, Harold and I, if Harold is up here, like where he's at right now, and I'm at the bottom, do we switch that or do you still want me to stay at the bottom? Because like he's
So
like,
I know what you're saying. You guys got to work together, and I'll explain what you do. I actually was going to explain it, but this is what you do. You kind of stay where you're at, right bottom, but you have to be hyper aware of Harold getting to Chino, right? And then if he's not going to get Chino, like you come to Chino, if that makes sense. Now, when I say stay at the bottom, like, all right, remember when I told you guys to know your matchups, right? So inside the game, this is probably at this point maybe the fifth possession because I've been passing it, zooming it, maybe fifth or sixth. You should start be able to see like what people could kind of do. Does that make sense? So we're gonna be quite frank with everybody. You should be able to see that, hey, this guy doing the ball, he can drive, he can, if you cut and he'll pass, he can finish off the backboard. He can shoot. All right. This guy, Chino, he likes to shoot. He can drive as well. He can cut. I gotta be worried about him. My whole point is you look at someone like Brian, you can see a couple of times he hits the side of the backboard, you go, yeah, he can't shoot that well. I'll tell you the truth right now. Generally speaking, if somebody hits the side of the backboard on an inner wide open, don't have that much faith in their shots. That means at most you can give them that they're inconsistent. All right. My biggest thing why I'm telling that, Lee, is that we saw what this guy does so far. It's not to diminish anybody. You can just kind of see and say, generally speaking, if I were to have stepped up and he does backdoor, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to be athletic enough to catch the pass, athletic enough to finish the basket, X, Y, and Z. Now, if you are planning on stepping up, this is all team basketball. Right? If you are planning on stepping up, you got to communicate to Joel if you think so. If you think he's going to go backdoor, you gotta communicate with Joel to say, "Hey, I'm gonna step." You gotta tell him, like you just whispered him, "Hey, I'm at Chino's on over there. I'm gonna come up. So Joel, I need your back. That means if that guy goes back door, please like have my back for a second, right?" And what does that mean, Joel? Your next step is because I remember you had the same question aside. Oh, we're gonna probably have to in 10 minutes. You probably have to redo it. Joel, I remember you had the same question, which is, oh, if I step up, what if no one has my back? That's what your job is to go to the next person and say, "Hey, Peterson." I might have to help on this. If you see me help on this cut, please help down on my big. Like come down hard on the big. All right. And then what does Peterson say? Peterson goes, hey, Chavis, if that ball's on the left side or something's happening, I need you to help, have my back in my area, until I get back. My whole point is that's how you communicate quickly in basketball. Of course, one person can't just tell everybody everything. It's gonna be hard. But once it starts with the chain action of stuff, kind of going back with you, Lee. Right now, again, he's the best player on the team. Even though, yeah, Jose is good too, but he's the one scoring the points. And again, like we're going back from the beginning, they're gonna probably try to get the ball to Chino. So how I would handle it starting from the top is you should because we know that you're denying the ball to Chino. And how do you do that? I'm not saying that Harold's doing it, but even the front foot up, he's probably gonna go back, which is I'm not saying I would necessarily want. But the point is, you're kind of putting your hands in the passing lane in high hands, so that if he does pass the ball, and let's just play it now. If he does pass the ball, say he steps back, so that's not what I'm saying. But if he does pass the ball, you see how you pass the ball, chest pass straight to Chino. If you're in that way, he has to get it over you, and if the ball has to come over you because you have high hands, then that means it gives Lee time to get back out there, or Harold time to even to turn and try to contest your shot. But if he can just pass a chest pass straight pass here to the best player, that's not good enough. Does that make sense for everybody? That's your first step. Does that make sense for people on top? We're talking about the best or better player that's making all the shots. All right, I'm assuming that does. All right, so that's your first step. If you know you have a good player and they're always getting the ball to that guy, that's how you should kind of play. You can try to, of course, you can't guard him specifically, like in this case, it's Harold, but you should never allow a chest pass straight to the best player on the first pass of the game, or they just got off the court on the court, right? They have to work for it. So you get in the way, you put your hands in the area. If they try to do a chest pass, it's stolen. And then if they want to get the ball to him, he has to throw it above you, which gives your defense time. So now league gives you time to communicate and talk. And then you guys have to talk and communicate how you want to solve things, right? Like for example, do you want Harold to take care of him just getting back? Now, if you're being honest with Harold, I don't know if Harold has the hit and ability and everything to turn and go get that ball. So you might have to say something like, "Hey, I'm gonna run out there." Especially with this point, there's no one on your side, and I do see what you're doing. You're guarding him, but that's the whole point of the communication part. How do you want to handle it? Right now, we have two, and this guy can't shoot. So generally speaking, what I would say is you pop out, and let Joel handle it for this specific play and who's on the court and who's where and who's there, right? Like this guy, like I said, you can tell the way he's going back door. You can tell he's not someone that cares to get the ball on these type of cuts. He's just getting out the way. So those are the things I'm saying to every position. Notice what people are doing. Pay attention. Pay attention to how they play. And I'm telling you, our team defense is going to vastly improve. All right. In zone specifically, but even a man. So that's how you handle
It's, you
it.
know,
Go ahead.
one point I'll say, it's kind of hard to communicate sometimes. I'm just gonna be very honest because it's like sometimes you say something and it's like people just get upset. And it's like, and I said in the beginning of the scrimmage, you're gonna make mistakes. Like, but it's like every time there was a mistake, someone tried to say something, whoever it was, it never was like reciprocated. It's always like a bad thing. So it's like we're never gonna get there if we can't actually talk to each other, like communicate.
Yeah, I'll say this. One thing in terms of communicating is if you see a lot of stuff I'm talking about in terms of the communicating I'm sharing, it's called pre-communication. And of course, there's gonna be times something gets missed. And how you communicate that is not saying whose man is that? Why are you not guarding him, right? How you communicate that is to say, okay, for example, however, so even the first play, Carly, the first play of the game where Carl, I remember you stepped back and then Jose got that free shot. That was off of two passes or three, one, two, three passes, right? That can't happen. And if that happens in the game, we'll lose, right? In short, you don't say, whose man is that? Why don't you help me? Da da da. Like that doesn't solve anything, right? So how do you communicate it? Is first, obviously, is try to pre-solve the issue. And if that didn't happen, the next thing would be is to say, how do you solve it? So the next thing would be, okay, and I'm explaining some stuff for you guys too. And I noticed that when I talk it through with you guys seem to get it. So even the first play, for example, Carly, like going back there, Carly shouldn't be guarding nobody. And it regardless if it was Carly, so it's not just picking on you, Carly, but it's just no matter who it is. In a zone, you really can't guard any. If you're guarding nobody, generally speaking, that's a problem. And what I mean by guarding nobody doesn't mean you have to come out your zones crazily and go to the corner. It doesn't mean all that. It just means that in this case, when Carly has stepped back, as I will give an example. Lee should have said, "Hey, I got one on my side, Carly. You can move over." And even Carly yourself, if you keep your hand on swivel, you can look and say, "Hey, I got one on my side." So even if Lee don't tell you, "Hey, Lee, you grab him and on the side, or you got him right now. We have overload. I'm going towards the middle." And that what that means is even though you're not fully guarding Jose on that shot that he made, you're closer into the area. So when that ball does swing, you're there. You can help Chavis, and then you can come back to your zone. But someone should be wide open. The reason why people are wide open is because of what we talked about. So, in short, if you turn around and you see somebody's wide open, right, and you see, let's say going back, let's say we're using Carly. Carly, you look and you say, okay, Carly's not guarding nobody. The response to that is not saying, Carly, why aren't you guarding anybody, right? I usually, if you notice when I play with people, I'll usually ask the question like, hey, Carly, what happened? And then he might say, hey, from his perspective, right? Everybody's own perspective. From my perspective, like I'll say what happened. He'll say, "Hey, when the ball went over to the other side, I stepped back because I thought, the ball's I'm on the weak side, so I stepped back." And then let's say it's Chavis, and that's the thing for maybe Chavis to do as well. Not even just Chavis, but that's something Chavis in your case because even though when that pass that Jose made up the middle, it kind of could be your side ish. So that's how you talk to Carly. Hey, like what kind of happened there? Like I thought, I thought I can have you because realistically, who could get those shots in the middle is only y'all two. So that means if Chavis comes out to guard Chino over here, if you guys know what I'm talking about, that means the only other person that can really do it is Carly. So we have to communicate on like how can we fix that for next time. So basically, how going back now, what I would do, I'll say, hey, Carly, what happened? He'll say, oh, I stepped back because the ball's on the other side. I'll say, hey, if I'm going over there to over here, I need your help because I might not be able to get back there. So at least if you can show and then get back, that'd be better because then he might hesitate and that gives me time to get back. All right. And then Carly might say, well, I can't come because the next guy's going to be open. And then I'll say, and again, of course, how we're talking about it, everything is a chain reaction. I would say, hey, that means what you do is you tell Lee if he can get the next guy. Because if you communicate that beforehand, then now somebody's accounted for, which is Lee would know now. But one of our issues, and again, I think going back to Joel Thomas, you said it too because not when I'm inside the scrimmage that day was that when people say, "Hey, do this or do that," like maybe come up and try to block the shot, you're like, "Well, the back somebody's gonna come back door." And to be honest, what I'm trying to say is if we have that mindset, we will lose. The point is we have to communicate. The point is if you do step up, if we choose to have you step up, Joel, you got to talk to, and the other person got to help too, but you got to talk to the next person. Let's say we're playing a zone and saying, let's say it was Peterson. Hey, Peterson, when I step up, I need you to be here. And Joel Thomas, and then not just you, but for everybody else, because you guys probably seen it. Joel Thomas, when we played there was one game I played last year, and I was talking to everybody. But I remember Joel Thomas, you were one of the ones I was like, hey, when that dude passed me, I need you to come up here. And then you started jumping, and we started getting better like defense instead of having people just at the rim. I'm like, hey, I need you to jump, and if you do jump, I got your back. Like I'm gonna go to your guy. I'm gonna make sure whatever. I'm gonna do something different. But the whole point is, I'm saying it, but for you, going back with everybody in short is that everybody has to have a chain reaction in short, and then we have to find solutions. And so I'm giving examples of how we can do it inside the zone, right? And we all have to kind of, well, again, I saw it in offense a little bit. That's why I'm not even kind of going to our offense. Our defense was porous. Offense is not that bad, honestly. In zone, we got to work on man. But that's what we have to do. It's like a chain reaction. There's no why is he open? Why are you not doing your job? That's not communicating realistically, honestly, right? It's how can we fix that? Like, so if I ask the question again, it's going to be, hey, what happened? That's usually my first thing. So let's say I looked at Carly and I saw he wasn't guarding, but I'm gonna say, hey, Carly, what happened? Carly give us perspective, and I'll say, hey, like in short, regardless of the perspective, the truth is, and Dan, this might be you, right? The truth is, we need you here because you're the top. So it's not that you're wrong or right, because the truth is we got to figure it out, and however you choose to figure it out on that side with you and Lee, for example, we got to figure it out. All right, hold on. It's about to end the call, so we have to end it, and then we're gonna have to rejoin it, and then we can finish it. Because I already see it's gonna end it. So let me see.